United had the data, they had the reports. And for once, they may have had the advantage in the race for Crescencio Summerville. But this is Manchester United. They hesitated, and now the data monster they fell in love with might be about to haunt them. PSG are pushing, Spurs are there, and with every World Cup match, Somerville's stock is rising. That is the danger. A few weeks ago, £50 million for a winger from relegated West Ham sounded ridiculous. 7 goals, 5 assists. But what if I told you United were never obsessed with the surface numbers? They were obsessed with something far much deeper and hidden. And West Ham know exactly what they have. That is why they are not budging. So, stay with me, because this deal has 7 warning signs United cannot afford to ignore anymore. The £1 million to £50 million rise, the Championship monster, the West Ham suppression, the United unlock, the 1v1 gravity, the pressing and retention data, and the World Cup explosion nobody saw coming. Because the question is not really whether Somerville is worth £50 million. It is whether United had the chance to get him before the whole of Europe realised he was worth the argument. Before we go deeper, hit like and subscribe if you enjoy these United breakdowns. It really helps the channel. Part 1. The £1 million to £50 million rise. This is the first warning sign. Somerville did not become expensive overnight. His price has been climbing in stages. Leeds took the first risk, around £1 million from Feyenoord. That was the quiet buy, the one most clubs ignore until it is too late. Then Leeds gave him responsibility, gave him touches, gave him freedom, and the player changed level. Suddenly he was not just a talented winger anymore, he became a championship monster. So West Ham paid around £25 million, and that was the second stage of the rise. But this is where United's timing becomes the problem, because if they liked the profile, the data, the dribbling, the carries, the 1v1 threat, this was the window to be aggressive. Before the World Cup noise, before PSG started pushing, before Spurs stayed close, before every goal made West Ham feel more justified. Now the conversation is different. West Ham are not selling hope, they are selling evidence. Championship dominance, Premier League experience, international impact, a winger whose stock is rising while United are still deciding. That is why the £50 million figure matters. It is not just a fee, it is a punishment for waiting. Some players get expensive because of hype. Somerville has got expensive because every step up has revealed another layer. Part 2. The Championship monster. Before anyone judges Crescencio Summerville through West Ham's relegation season, one must analyse what happens when you give him a proper attacking platform. At Leeds, in the 2023-24 season, he was not just good, he was ridiculous. 20 goals, 11 assists, EFL Championship Player of the Season, PFA Championship Player of the Year, Leeds United Players Player of the Year, Championship Team of the Season. That is not a purple patch, that is dominance. And the reason it matters for United is simple. They would not be buying Somerville to stand in a low block, chase clearances, and live off scraps. They would be buying him to attack, to receive high, to isolate fullbacks, to run at defenders again and again until the whole shape bends towards him. That was the Leeds version. A winger with the ball, the confidence, the freedom, and the responsibility to decide games. And that is why the West Ham argument is too basic. Because if you only look at the Premier League surface numbers, you miss the bigger question. What does Somerville look like when his team actually controls territory? What does he look like when he is not feeding off broken moments? What does he look like when he gets repeat touches in dangerous areas? We have already seen the answer. When Somerville gets the ball often, high up the pitch, with runners around him, he does not look like a squad winger. He looks like a problem. Part 3. The West Ham suppression. When some fans look at Somerville's West Ham numbers and think they have solved the case, 7 goals, 5 assists, a relegated team, definitely not worth £50 million. Simple. But United's analysts did not look at it that way. They asked a better question. How much of that was Somerville? And how much of that was West Ham? Because context matters. At West Ham, he was not playing in a team that dominated territory. He was not getting wave after wave of attacks. He was not constantly receiving the ball on the edge of the box, with support runners around him. He was playing in a struggling side. Less possession, less control, less service, fewer final third touches, more defensive work, more broken moments. So of course the raw output looks smaller. But here is the important part. The hidden data did not disappear. The dribbling was still there. The carries were still there. The 1v1 threat was still there. The ability to move the ball up the pitch by himself was still there. That is why this is not as simple as saying he failed. Maybe West Ham did not expose his ceiling. Maybe they exposed the limitations of the environment around him. West Ham did not prove Somerville cannot scale. They may have proved what happens when you put a high-volume attacker in a low-volume attack. Part 4. The United Unlock. And this is where the deal starts to make football sense. Because United would not be buying Somerville to recreate West Ham. That is the whole point. They would be buying him to escape that version. At West Ham, he was often receiving too deep, too isolated, with too much distance between him and the goal. At United, the picture changes. He should receive 20 yards higher, more touches around the box, more chances to isolate fullbacks, more overlaps outside him, more runners inside him. Bruno Fernandes finding him earlier, Matheus Cunha or Benjamin Šeško occupying centre-backs and dragging defenders away from the left side. Suddenly, the same player who looked quiet in a struggling West Ham attack is back in the kind of environment where his numbers exploded at Leeds. That is the unlock. Not magic, context. Because if you give Somerville repeat touches in dangerous areas, he becomes a completely different problem. He can go inside, he can go outside, he can combine, he can carry, he can force defenders backwards and make the whole block shift. And that matters for United, because too often their wide players have needed the perfect pass before anything happens. Somerville can create the chaos himself. That is why the data matters. United are not betting on the West Ham version. They are betting they can recreate the Leeds conditions at Premier League level. Part 5. The 1v1 gravity. And this is the scary part of the profile. Somerville is not just a winger who stands wide and waits for the ball. He changes how teams defend. That is the difference. When he receives on the left, fullbacks cannot just step in aggressively. They have to think. Because if they get too tight, he can spin. If they back off, he can drive. If they show him outside, he can still attack the line. If they show him inside, he can come onto that right foot and shoot. That is why 1v1 wingers are so valuable. They create panic without needing the perfect pass. And United do not have enough of that. Too often, United attacks become predictable. Pass, recycle, pass, recycle. Wait for Bruno Fernandes to force something. But if your left winger can beat his man, the whole pitch changes. The fullback cannot press high. The centre-back gets dragged across. The holding midfielder has to cover. The opposite winger gets space. The striker gets better movement lanes. And suddenly, one dribble has moved 5 defenders. That is gravity. It is not just about completing a dribble. It is about what the threat of the dribble does to the opposition. Somerville does not just beat defenders. He makes managers change how they defend that side of the pitch. Part 6. The pressing and retention data. This is where Somerville becomes more than a YouTube winger. Because highlights are one thing, trust is another. United cannot afford wide players who only look alive when the ball comes to them. At a serious club, the winger has to work, he has to press, he has to track, he has to recover. He has to keep the team compact when the opponent starts building down his side. And this is why the data matters. Somerville is not just a dribbler. He regains the ball. He presses high. He can carry United up the pitch. But he can also help win it back when the attack breaks down. That gives the manager something important: trust. Because the modern game is ruthless. If your winger loses the ball and then switches off, the whole side gets stretched. The fullback gets exposed. The midfield has to slide across. The centre-backs get dragged into spaces they do not want to defend. So when people only talk about goals and assists, they miss the other half of the job. Can he survive pressure? Can he keep the ball? Can he work without it? Can he stay on the pitch in serious games? That is the question. And Somerville gives you enough evidence to take that seriously. He is not just chaos on the ball. He gives you enough work without it to stay on the pitch in serious games. Part 7. The World Cup explosion. Before the World Cup, Somerville was a data debate. Now he is a market problem United didn't want. 2 games, 2 goals, 1 assist with limited minutes. And suddenly the question is no longer, can he handle a bigger stage? He is already answering it. Against Japan, he announced himself with that trademark finish. Cut inside from the left, opened the angle, whipped it with his right foot into the far corner. Then against Sweden, he came off the bench and changed the game again. That matters, because this is no longer just Leeds dominance. It is no longer just Premier League carry data. It is no longer just 1v1 volume hiding inside a relegated West Ham team. Now there is international proof as well. And that is dangerous for United, because every goal at a World Cup adds noise. Every impact performance adds interest. Every elite club watching suddenly has less reason to doubt him. So if United liked him before, the price is not going down now. This is the risk with waiting. The data monster was hiding in plain sight. Now the whole world is starting to see it. So would you pay £50 million for Somerville? Or is this another case of United finding the profile too late after the data has already become public?